I still remember the silence before the phone rang. It was the kind of silence that feels heavy, the kind that presses against your ears when the whole world seems asleep. The clock on the wall showed 2:17 a.m. Its ticking felt louder than usual, each second dragging like it was warning me that something was coming. I was half asleep on the couch, wrapped in a thin blanket, waiting for my husband to come home. He hadn't answered my messages all evening. That wasn't normal. He was always careful, always sent a short text, always called, even if it was just to say he'd be late, but that night there was nothing. No message, no missed call, just silence. I tried calling him again, straight to voicemail. My chest tightened. I told myself not to panic. He's probably busy. Maybe his phone died. I repeated those words again and again like a prayer I didn't fully believe. Then my phone rang. An unknown number. For a moment, I just stared at the screen. My thumb hovered over the answer button. I felt a strange chill run through my body, like my soul recognized danger before my mind did. I answered. "Hello?" A woman's voice responded, calm, distant, professional. "Is this Mrs. Ahmed?" "Yes," I replied, sitting up straight. "Who is this?" "This is City General Hospital. Your husband has been admitted due to an emergency. You need to come immediately." Her words didn't register at first. Admitted? Emergency? My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "What happened to him?" I asked quickly. "Is he okay? Was there an accident?" There was a pause. Not long, but long enough. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said carefully. "I'm not authorized to share details over the phone." That pause was when fear truly entered my body. Hospitals don't pause when things are simple. I grabbed the edge of the couch to steady myself. "Which department is he in?" "Operating floor," she replied. "Please come as soon as possible." Before I could ask anything else, the call ended. I stared at my phone, my hands shaking. The room felt suddenly unfamiliar, like I was standing in someone else's house. Operating floor? Why would he be there? He never mentioned feeling unwell. He was fine when he left that morning. He even smiled at me, kissed my forehead, told me not to wait up. "I'll be home soon," he had said. I rushed to get dressed, my movements clumsy and rushed. I dropped my keys twice. My reflection in the mirror looked pale, frightened, someone I barely recognized. As I stepped outside, the street was empty. The night air was cold, sharp against my skin. Streetlights flickered as if they too were nervous. During the drive, my thoughts spiraled. Was it a car accident? Was he stabbed? Was he dying? Every red light felt like torture. Every passing second felt stolen from him. I prayed the entire way, not for answers, just for him to be alive. But deep inside my heart, beneath all the panic and hope, there was a quiet, unsettling feeling, a whisper telling me that what I was about to walk into was not an accident. It was the beginning of a truth I was never meant to discover. The moment I stepped into the hospital, the air felt different. Cold. Heavy. The automatic doors slid open with a soft hiss, and a sharp smell of disinfectant hit my nose. It was a smell I had known all my life, a smell that usually meant safety, treatment, and care. But that night, it felt like a warning. The emergency lobby was brightly lit, yet something about it felt strangely dim. People were there. Nurses moving quickly, a security guard near the entrance, a man pacing back and forth with his phone pressed to his ear. But no one looked calm. No one looked hopeful. I walked to the front desk, my footsteps echoing too loudly on the polished floor. My hands were still shaking when I placed them on the counter. "My husband," I said, my voice barely steady. "I got a call. He was brought in tonight." The receptionist looked up slowly. She was middle-aged, tired, with deep lines on her face that told me she had seen too much in her career. She typed something into the computer, her long nails clicking softly against the keyboard. "What's his name?" she asked without looking at me. I told her. The clicking stopped. She looked at the screen. Then she looked at me. Her eyes changed. It was subtle, but I noticed it. A flicker of surprise. Maybe confusion. Maybe something else. "You're his?" she asked. "His wife," I replied immediately. She hesitated, then nodded. "Please wait." She stood up and disappeared through a door behind the desk. My heart sank. Hospitals don't make you wait when things are simple. I stood there alone, clutching my purse, watching people pass by. A woman nearby was crying quietly into her scarf. A young boy sat on a bench, swinging his legs, unaware of the fear around him. Minutes passed. Finally, the receptionist returned. "Third floor," she said, avoiding my eyes. "Operating wing, third corridor on the left." "That's it?" I asked. "Can someone come with me?" She shook her head gently. "Just go." No reassurance. No comforting words. "No, he'll be okay." Just directions. The elevator ride felt endless. The soft music playing inside felt cruel, almost mocking. When the doors opened on the third floor, the hallway stretched out in front of me like a tunnel with no end. White walls, harsh lights, closed doors. Each door felt like it was hiding a secret. I walked slowly now, my earlier rush replaced by dread. The further I went, the quieter it became. The sounds of the busy hospital faded behind me, replaced by distant beeping machines and muffled voices. I read the signs on the walls. Authorized personnel only. Operating rooms ahead. My breathing grew shallow. I wasn't supposed to be here. I felt it in my bones. That's when it happened. A hand suddenly grabbed my arm. I gasped and turned sharply, my heart leaping into my throat. It was a nurse. Young, pale. Her eyes were wide, almost frightened. Her grip was firm, not aggressive, but urgent. Before I could say a word, she leaned in close and whispered something that made my blood run cold. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The nurse's hand was still wrapped tightly around my arm, her fingers cold against my skin. Her grip wasn't painful, but it carried urgency, like she was trying to hold me back from stepping off a cliff. I stared at her face, searching for answers. Her eyes darted down the hallway, then back to me. "Don't go any further," she whispered. My mind struggled to catch up. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice shaking. "My husband is in surgery. I need to see him." Her lips trembled slightly. She leaned closer, lowering her voice even more, so low it felt like a secret meant only for my ears. "Please," she said, "hide." I felt my heart slam against my ribs. "Hide?" I repeated. "Why would I hide?" She swallowed hard, as if choosing her words carefully. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. "It's a trap." The hallway suddenly felt smaller. The lights above us seemed harsher, brighter. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding so loudly I was sure she could hear it too. "A trap?" I whispered. "What kind of trap?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked over my shoulder again, fear flashing across her face. Footsteps echoed somewhere in the distance. "They told us not to say anything," she murmured. "They said if you came, we were to delay you, keep you away from the operating room." My legs felt weak. "Who told you that?" I asked. Her fingers tightened on my arm. "I can't say," she replied quickly. "But if he sees you now, everything will go wrong." I tried to pull my arm free, panic rising in my chest. "You don't understand," I said. "That's my husband. I have a right to be there." Her eyes filled with something that looked dangerously close to guilt. "I understand more than you think," she said softly. Before I could ask another question, voices grew louder down the hallway. 2 doctors were approaching, talking in low, serious tones. The nurse's expression changed instantly. She released my arm as if she had never touched me at all. Her shoulders straightened. Her face went blank, professional, emotionless. She stepped back, adjusting her badge. "Ma'am," she said aloud in a normal hospital voice, "please wait here." Then she walked away. Just like that. No explanation. No answers. No protection. I stood there alone, my mind spinning. Trap. The word echoed again and again inside my head. I looked around. The hallway was empty now. Too quiet. Too clean. Too controlled. Every instinct inside me screamed to listen to her, to turn around, to hide, to run. But another part of me, louder and more desperate, pushed me forward. What if he's dying? What if this is my last chance to see him? I took a slow step toward the operating wing. Then another. My hands were trembling. My throat was dry. Each step felt heavier than the last, like I was walking towards something I could never come back from. At the end of the corridor, a door stood closed. A red light glowed above it. "Operating room, do not enter." I reached for the handle. And in that moment, I still didn't know that opening that door would shatter everything I believed about my marriage, my husband, and my entire life. My hand hovered over the door handle. For a brief moment, time seemed to stop. I could still hear the nurse's whisper in my head, "Hide, it's a trap." But my fingers were already curling around the cold metal. The handle felt heavier than it should have, as if it carried the weight of every warning I had ignored. I told myself I was being foolish. He's my husband. Whatever is happening, I deserve to know. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open, just a little. The first thing I noticed was the light. It was blindingly bright, sharper than the hallway lights, flooding the room with a harsh white glow. The smell of antiseptic was stronger here, mixed with something metallic that made my stomach turn. I expected chaos. I expected alarms, rushing doctors, a body on a table fighting for life. But what I saw made my entire body freeze. My husband was standing, not lying on an operating table, not unconscious, not bleeding. Standing. He was dressed in light blue surgical scrubs, a cap pulled low over his hair, a mask hanging loose around his neck. His posture was relaxed, too relaxed. He was leaning slightly against a counter, speaking to a man in a white coat. And then, he laughed. A soft, familiar laugh. The same laugh I had fallen in love with. My vision blurred instantly. I gripped the doorframe to keep myself from collapsing. My knees felt like they might give way at any second. "This isn't real," my mind screamed. "This can't be real." Why was he dressed like staff? Why wasn't he injured? Why was he here at all? The man in the white coat said something I couldn't hear, and my husband nodded casually, like they were discussing weekend plans instead of standing inside an operating room at 2 a.m. Then he turned. Our eyes met. In that single second, everything changed. The smile vanished from his face. Not slowly. Instantly. His eyes widened, not with relief, Not with happiness, but with panic. Raw, undeniable panic. He took a step toward the door, toward me, as if acting on instinct. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Behind him, the doctor placed a hand on his arm, stopping him. They exchanged a look, quick, tense, urgent. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the fear in their faces. I stepped back. The room felt like it was closing in on me. My heart pounded violently, each beat echoing in my ears. 1,000 memories rushed through my mind at once. Late nights, unexplained absences, calls he would take in another room, the way he always kept his phone face down. All the things I had ignored. All the things I had forgiven without understanding. The door slipped from my hand and slowly swung shut, separating us again. I stumbled backward into the hallway, gasping for air. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't an accident. This was a lie, carefully built, carefully hidden. And I had just walked straight into it. I stood there in the hallway, staring at the closed door, my chest rising and falling too fast, like my body had forgotten how to breathe properly. My hands were trembling. Not from fear anymore, but from something colder. Understanding. Moments earlier, I had been terrified that my husband might die. Now, I was facing something far worse, the realization that the man I loved had been living a life I knew nothing about. I pressed my back against the wall, trying to ground myself. The white tiles felt icy through my clothes. My legs felt weak, but my mind was painfully sharp. He wasn't supposed to see me. That thought repeated again and again. The nurse hadn't warned me because he was unstable or in danger. She warned me because my presence wasn't part of the plan. I closed my eyes, and suddenly everything I had ignored for years began lining up perfectly, like puzzle pieces finally snapping into place. The nights he came home smelling of antiseptic, claiming it was from a late shift with a friend. The weekends he disappeared, saying he was attending emergency training. The way he always knew hospital schedules, staff names, restricted areas. He hadn't learned those things by chance. He belonged there. Footsteps approached, snapping me out of my thoughts. 2 doctors walked past me, speaking quietly but not quietly enough. "She wasn't supposed to come tonight," one of them muttered. "I know," the other replied. "He said his wife lives abroad, that she wouldn't show up." My stomach dropped. Lives abroad? So that was his story about me. Not his wife. Not his partner. A convenient excuse. I felt something inside me crack, slowly, painfully. If he could lie about something so big, how many other lies had I been living with? I stepped back, hiding myself behind a large equipment cabinet as more staff passed by. No one noticed me now. No one questioned my presence. I was invisible. And for the first time, I realized how long I must have been invisible in his life. I didn't know what he was involved in yet. Illegal procedures, fake admissions, secret identities, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty: the emergency call, the nurse's fear, the warning to hide. None of it was accidental. This hospital wasn't just a workplace or a coincidence. It was the center of his other life. And somehow, I had been pulled into it. As I stood there, my heart aching and my mind racing, one terrifying question echoed inside me. If this is what he's hiding, what happens now that I know? I stayed where I was, pressed against the cold wall, afraid to move. The hallway felt different now. It wasn't just a hospital corridor anymore. It was a place full of secrets, each door hiding something I wasn't meant to see. Every passing footstep made my heart race. I didn't know who I could trust. I didn't even know if it was safe for me to be there. I pulled my shawl tighter around myself, trying to look like just another worried family member. But I wasn't. I was a mistake. I listened. That's all I could do. From behind a partially open door nearby, voices drifted out. Low, serious, careful. "He's getting careless," a man said. "He didn't expect her to come," another replied. "The call wasn't supposed to reach her." My breath caught in my throat. So even the phone call had been wrong. Or maybe it hadn't been wrong at all. I leaned slightly closer, my heart pounding so hard I was afraid it would give me away. "She can't stay here," the first voice continued. "If she starts asking questions..." "She won't," the second interrupted. "He'll handle it. He always does." I felt a chill run through my entire body. Handle it. Those words didn't sound like comfort. They sounded like control. I stepped back quietly, my mind racing. What exactly was he involved in? Fake records? Cover-ups? Something illegal? Something dangerous? And then I saw him again. He stepped out of another operating room down the corridor, walking confidently like he belonged there. He was talking to a senior doctor now, nodding seriously, gesturing with his hands like they were discussing medical procedures. If I didn't know him, I would have believed he was a surgeon. That realization hit me hard. This wasn't new. This wasn't some sudden decision or desperate situation. This was practiced, planned, lived. I watched from a distance as a nurse handed him a file. He skimmed through it quickly, then handed it back, giving instructions. The nurse obeyed without hesitation. The man I married gave orders in a hospital he never officially worked in. My chest tightened painfully. How many times had I defended him when people questioned his work? How many times had I trusted his excuses without proof? I suddenly remembered the nurse's eyes when she warned me. Fear. Not for him. For me. Because now I understood something terrifying. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about power. And people with power don't like witnesses. As I stood there, hidden, shaking, I realized that discovering the truth was only the beginning. The real danger wasn't what my husband was doing. The real danger was that I had seen it. I don't know how long I stood there watching him. Seconds felt like minutes. Minutes felt like hours. Every instinct inside me told me to run, to leave the hospital, to disappear before he noticed me again. But another feeling was stronger now, stronger than fear. Anger. Not the loud, explosive kind, but the quiet kind that burns slowly and refuses to die. I stepped out from behind the equipment cabinet. My legs felt heavy, but my back was straight. Each step I took toward him felt like walking toward a truth I could no longer avoid. He noticed me almost immediately. Our eyes met again. This time he didn't panic. This time his face hardened. He excused himself from the doctor and walked toward me quickly, his steps controlled, purposeful. When he reached me, he grabbed my arm and pulled me toward a quieter corner of the hallway. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. I looked at his hand on my arm. "Let go," I said calmly. He didn't. "You weren't supposed to come," he said under his breath. "This isn't a place for you." I laughed, a short, bitter laugh that surprised even me. "You called me," I replied. "Or did you forget that part?" His jaw tightened. "That call was a mistake," he said quickly. "Someone messed up." "So my fear was a mistake?" I asked. "My panic? My running through the city at 2 a.m. thinking you were dying?" He finally released my arm. People were starting to look. Nurses slowed their steps. A security guard glanced in our direction. He lowered his voice. "Listen to me," he said. "I can explain everything, just not here. Not now." I shook my head. "You've been explaining for years," I said quietly. "And lying at the same time?" His eyes flickered, just for a second. Then his expression softened, the way it always did when he wanted forgiveness. "You don't understand what I'm involved in," he said. "If you did, you'd know I had no choice." "No choice?" I repeated. "You had a choice when you lied to me. You had a choice when you built a whole life I wasn't part of." He leaned closer. "Lower your voice," he warned. "You don't know who's listening." I glanced around. White coats, blue scrubs, closed doors, a hospital full of ears. "Good," I said. "Maybe someone should listen." For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. Not fear of losing me, but fear of losing control. "You're making this dangerous," he said sharply. I met his gaze, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "No," I replied. "You already did. I'm just standing in the truth." And as I said those words, I knew there was no going back. The hallway had been quiet. Not completely silent, but quiet in the way that happens when people pretend not to listen while hearing everything. My husband was still standing in front of me, his body blocking my path, his eyes searching my face as if trying to calculate his next move. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, careful. I turned my head. It was the nurse. The same young nurse who had grabbed my arm earlier. She walked toward us, her face pale but determined, like someone who had finally decided to stop being afraid. She stopped beside me. "I warned her," the nurse said quietly. My husband turned sharply. "This doesn't concern you," he snapped. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. "It does," she replied. "Because what you're doing is wrong, and because she deserves to know." A few nurses nearby paused. A doctor looked up from a chart. The security guard shifted his weight. My husband's face darkened. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said. The nurse took a deep breath. "I know enough," she said. "I know about the fake admissions, the altered records, the people who come here in the middle of the night when no one is supposed to ask questions." My heart dropped with every word. She continued, her voice gaining strength. "And I know about the women," she added. "The wives who don't know they're not the only ones." The world seemed to tilt. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath my feet. "Women?" I whispered. My husband's head snapped toward me. "That's not true," he said quickly. "She's lying." The nurse looked at me, her eyes filled with regret. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "There were others. Different names, different stories, same promises." My chest burned as if something inside me was tearing apart. Fake emergencies, fake identities, fake relationships. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a pattern. A senior doctor approached us now, his expression serious. "What's going on here?" he demanded. The nurse turned to him. "Sir," she said, "this man is not who he claims to be, and this woman," she gestured to me, "was never supposed to find out." The hallway erupted into murmurs. My husband looked around, realizing the control he once had was slipping away. And for the first time I saw something break in him. Not guilt, not shame, fear. Because secrets can survive in silence. But they collapse the moment someone speaks the truth out loud. The hallway no longer belonged to him. It belonged to the truth. People had stopped pretending not to listen. Nurses stood still, doctors whispered to one another, and the security guard stepped closer, his posture alert. The air felt thick, charged with something dangerous and irreversible. The senior doctor looked from the nurse to my husband and then to me. "Is this true?" he asked him firmly. My husband opened his mouth, but no words came out. For the first time since I had known him, he didn't have an answer ready. "That's enough," the doctor said. "Security." The guard moved forward. My husband finally spoke, his voice low and urgent. "This is a misunderstanding," he said. "I can explain everything." "You've had plenty of time to explain," the doctor replied coldly. "You'll do it in the office." As they led him away, he turned back toward me. Our eyes met one last time. I was waiting for an apology, for regret, for something human. But what I saw was calculation. As if he was already planning how to fix this, how to escape. And in that moment, something inside me shut down completely. I followed them to the administrative office, not because I wanted answers anymore, but because I needed closure. Inside the office, documents were pulled, names were read aloud, dates, signatures, altered files. Each piece of evidence felt like another thread of my past being ripped away. Fake admissions under different names, unauthorized access to operating rooms, relationships hidden behind professional titles. Everything was there, in black and white. When they finally asked me if I wished to file a formal complaint, I surprised myself. I said yes, not out of revenge, but out of respect for myself. My husband didn't look at me again after that, and I didn't ask him to. Some endings don't need conversations. They need courage. As I walked out of the office and back into the hospital lobby, the morning light was beginning to filter through the glass doors. A new day was starting, and for the first time in years, it wasn't built on a lie. I stepped out of the hospital into the early morning light. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft golden glow over the city. Birds were singing. Traffic hummed softly in the distance. Life was continuing as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. I realized as I walked slowly down the steps that the woman I had been for years, trusting, patient, forgiving, was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, wiser, wounded, yes, but awake. I learned that love can blind you. It can make you ignore signs, dismiss instincts, and forgive what should never have been forgiven. I learned that trust is fragile. Once broken, it doesn't return to the way it was. It either strengthens you or shatters you completely. And I learned that sometimes the universe, or fate, removes people from your life not as a punishment but as a protection. That night, I didn't just lose a husband. I lost a lie. I lost illusions. I lost the carefully constructed world I thought I knew. And in its place, I found freedom. Freedom to see the truth no matter how painful. Freedom to reclaim my own life. Freedom to start over without guilt or hesitation. As I paused for a moment, feeling the first warmth of the sun on my face, I made a silent promise to myself. I would never again let someone else's deception dictate my peace. I would never ignore the whispers of my instincts, and I would never let fear of the unknown stop me from seeing the truth. Because the truth, harsh, painful, undeniable, was the only thing that could set me free. And that morning, as I walked away from the hospital, I finally felt free. Free to rebuild, free to heal, free to live. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope.